Picture the following. A particularly bright 4-year-old kid hears the sound of thunder coming from outside. Curious about the sound he just heard, he asks his mother where it came from. Now, thunder's really complicated, and the kid's bright, but he's definitely not bright enough to understand meteorology, and everything that came to be to make that sound happen. The mother can respond in any way she likes, but she's faced with two fundamental options when she gives an answer. Will she lie to her kid, or tell him the truth? Many parents opt to tell their kids a lie here. Religious parents will say that God is bowling and he just got a strike. Never mind that God, being perfect, of course, would get nothing but strikes when he's bowling. The lie told to the kid is predicated on the belief that he is in some way not ready for the real adult answer, and so is given a kid answer. But let's say that our mother here presents the information truthfully. She tells the kid that when lightning strikes, the air surrounding the lightning expands quickly and the heat and the force created makes the loud noise. Will the kid understand it? I don't understand it, so I can't imagine the kid would. But even if he doesn't, at the very least the ideas will be there bouncing around in his mind, waiting to be applied when he is able to see the full picture. The problem with lying to kids, as I see it, is most kids are pretty smart. Kids take in so much information all the time and have to process that while learning to speak, empathize, listen, move their bodies, and, do all the things humans are supposed to do to, survive, etc. We want to feed kids good information, unless we have some really good reason to believe that lying is beneficial for them. It really is a kid having information versus the kid not having information, in most cases. So if telling the truth is so beneficial to kids, why is it seen as normal for parents to lie to their kids about so much? Santa, the tooth fairy, where meat comes from, how babies are made, and of course the source of thunder. Well, allow me to propose that we as a society, pushes up my glasses, give parents too much undue power over their children. This manifests in them being able to lie to their kids for no good reason and feeling justified in that. It's like a might makes right argument, but with maturity. And this brings us to today's video in question. We have a video from PragerU on how atheists should do what they think is lying to their kids and tell them that God exists. Now, I'm not an atheist, but I'm also not religious. I'd say that God might exist, I don't think we can know, that sort of thing. But this doesn't mean I'm going to give PragerU more intellectual credit than most atheists would. They're still really stupid. Not to poison the well or anything. And I hate to do this, I really do, but we have to debunk all the arguments leading up to the central point before we can criticize it. The build-up is trying to prove that religion helps kids psychologically. And to be honest, if it did, that would strengthen the case for lying to kids about God. But as we'll see, lying to kids about religion doesn't actually, improve their well-being at all. But let's let PragerU speak for themselves.
A 2018 Harvard study involving 5,000 people examined how being raised in a family with religious beliefs affects the mental health of children. The study found that kids who attended a religious service at least once per week scored higher on psychological well-being measurements and had lower risks of mental illness. Weekly attendance was also associated with higher rates of volunteerism, lower probabilities of both drug use and early sexual initiation, and a sense of purpose.
The first idea is that kids in religious families are less depressed, do less drugs, have sex later, and all the things you would associate with a happy, healthy development. But the problem is, this is all backed up with a study that doesn't examine kids in religious families, but kids who go to church or a temple at least once a week. This may seem like an unimportant difference, but it isn't. The key difference is that kids in religious families don't necessarily have to go to church every week, and the families that are able to bring their kids to church every week likely have a higher level of income, wealth, disposable income, etc. Pretty much everything that you need to have a good development in the first place. Parents that may be religious, but don't have the time or money to go to church, aren't included in the study. Instead of examining religious people like it's being framed in the video, the study examines a small part of religious people, which is fine, it just doesn't prove the point that PragerU thinks it does. It's basically like saying that people who wear ties more often live longer. It's true, but it doesn't prove that ties help you live longer. It just looks at an association between rich people and, people who wear ties. People who wear ties more just tend to be rich, and with the money they have a greater access to quality healthcare. It's the same thing. So, socioeconomics, basically. Here's another reason why kids in religious communities are typically happier. The community. With how isolated we are as individuals, or nuclear family to nuclear family, it's nice to have an extended community to refer back to. For pretty obvious reasons. It's why more people are depressed in quarantine. But you don't need religion to create a community. All you need is people who have common interests. Religion fulfills that purpose, but so could a chess club or something. Anyway, let's move on.
Nihilism, the belief in nothing, is a rich fertilizer for anxiety and depression. In contrast, the belief in God, a guardian figure who loves us, is an invaluable source of support and comfort.
The framing of the dichotomy between nihilism and Christianity is missing out on what almost every single agnostic and atheist believes, including me. Life can have a purpose, we can have morals, and we can be happy, all without believing in a creator. All of this said, at the end of the day, I don't actually care if believing in a God, independent of whether it's rational or not, makes you happier, because what matters is being rational in the first place. Lying to yourself to make yourself happier doesn't last. Dumbing down society to make them more hopeful sounds like some evil plot set out by plutocrats, and it's not what's actually important. Here's where PragerU drops the parenting advice.
I am often asked by parents, how do I talk to my child about death if I don't believe in God or heaven? My answer is always the same. Fake it. There are many things you don't tell your children the full truth about. For instance, if your children hear about a tragedy that has occurred in your community, you tell them that it will never happen to them. We don't have a crystal ball and cannot know that bad things will not happen to our children, yet we reassure them with a hopeful narrative. The same applies to believing in God and heaven.
So if your kids ask you as a non-religious parent about death, you should lie to them. Well, that's gonna be so many hard pills to swallow later in life for the kid. The kid's gonna distrust their parents. They're more likely to have some skewed view about religion later in life. Abstract thought is really important, and given lies about the world, that's gonna be so much harder for the kid to do. It doesn't even make the kid happier, and it dumbs them down. Not that PragerU actually cares about the idea that being religious makes you happier. That's just all fuel to the fire for their conservative propaganda. The more people are kept ignorant about religion, the more people statistically will support them in their pursuit to spread more misinformation and fund the billionaires to keep the channel afloat, and with such high a budget. Regardless, so if our 4-year-old kid from the beginning asks me, where do we come from? How do we get here? Is there a plane of existence beyond the ones which we have to suffer within, seemingly without escape? I would respond with a truthful, oh no. Because nobody knows. Maybe you'll find out someday. And that's the video. I had a lot of fun with this, so I'll probably do some more of these. Let me know what you think about the piano stuff. Is that a good format? Or And if you liked this, do whatever you need to do to make sure you see the next video I make, because I will be coming out with more. Let's subscribe, obviously, and all the other things. Anyway, yeah, see ya. Bye, I guess. Sure.